Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab. Today we're looking at a plugin from Universal Audio called the Ocean Way Studio plugin. This is a bit of a slightly different to your average convolution reverb, which is essentially sampling a room and being able to play back sound sources throughout. It does quite a lot more besides. But first, a bit of history. For over 50 years, Ocean Way has been recording classic acts from Sinatra, Ray Charles, the Beach Boys. I could go on right the way through to the modern day. It has two classic rooms, Studio A and Studio B. Now, Bill Putnam was the acoustic designer of these rooms, and he basically was also the founding member of Universal Audio. So we've got this kind of unique symbiosis and this kind of melding of great technologies. Obviously, Universal Audio make all these plugins that really detail component modelling and emulation of vintage gear. And what they've done with Ocean Way Studios is they've taken the expertise of Alan Sides, who is a very experienced engineer and producer there, who knows the rooms intimately, knows exactly how to use them to get the best and the most interesting and the widest range of sounds from his $250,000 mic collection. And he's basically put together all these presets. But it does more than just convolution. Convolution is just like taking a snapshot of that room and playing back at it. What this does is dynamic room modelling, which is much more besides. It allows you to have a much greater range, dynamic range and frequency response depending on the program material. And as they are saying in the blurb, it really does open up the possibilities. Not only that, but you can change the distances of the mics and the kind of mics used, all sorts of stuff. So let's take a look at the screens. So this is the plugin. I'm running it inside Reaper on a Mac. Works very nicely. It's got a fairly sort of classic look to it, and what you basically get are the sort of layout of these two rooms. You can see what they look like here. They've got these rather lovely photographs. I'd like to have seen more actually. There's only two, which for some reason we've never seen a slideshow. But yeah, here is the larger of the two. This is about let me see, it's 45 foot by 52, and this is Studio A, and Studio B is 35 by 45 in the main room and 18 by 45 in the other room. What you have, what's positioned where really depends on what you're using here. So essentially what we have are these starting points for recording these music groups. Groups of instruments, and basically, you know, we have to go with what Alan Sides knows, because I mean, none of us have got anything like the experience that he's got, and he really knows what he's doing. I mean, whether or not you would want to do it like that there, I don't know, but this is what we've kind of, so we've basically had a brain dump and a sort of acoustic space dump of Alan Sides on how he would do it, and the selection of mics is fabulous. We got the possibility of, well, on the guitar we got a C12, SM57 for a close mic, and they're different polar patterns, so cardioid, omni, figure of 8, and again cardioid, and so we've got three sets of mics. We've got the close one, the far one, and we can actually change the distance, and when you change the distance they go further away and get closer. And again, if we switch the mid and also the far set here, so if I just near, mid and far, and we've got balance and panning for each of those. We can also affect the phase. We can change the high pass and the low pass. I've also got a master EQ, which allows us to shelving, cut and boost around these frequencies. And we've got two modes here, remic and reverb. A bit more on that later. There's also a pre-delay. We can bypass the effect, left and right swap, mono, and a wet solo button. Now, what's quite interesting about this is starting off with a remic. This essentially is for re-recording or reprocessing the signals as if they were being mic'd in the room. So it's a slightly different thing. We've got a complete wet mix, and that works in that way. There's also another way, which is more of a bus method, which you would maybe send various different mics to, and then you would use the room and have a dry and wet mix. You might put that on a subgroup or whatever. So that's essentially how that works. It's pretty straightforward. Just a bit of information about what this is running on. You're going to need at least a UAD2 Duo. I've got a quad satellite here, but you do need a couple of the UAD2 Shark chips. Also, you're going to need 7.01 and later, because you download the latest version, it's got the latest plugins built into it. So we'll start off with the obvious. We'll try some drums through it, and I've got just a basic kit set up here. So let's take a listen. Kick, snare, and overheads. I'm processing it quite hard with just to get it sort of sounding nice, and mostly using the UAD plugins. So I've got Ocean Way Studio plugin here. I've got it bypassed, so I'll just switch it in. We're in room A and drums 1, and this is just as it comes. So you can hear it adds a sort of woody, compressed punch or compact punch to it. I can bring the far mics in. If I double click, it allows me to take them further away. You can probably hear a bit of zipper noise there. This isn't really designed to be automated, these functions, even though you can. It's doing a lot of processing, so it's not a very wise choice. I'm in remic mode, which means that effectively I'm bussing these drums. I put it over the stereo bus here, so it's like bussing the entire kit to these mics, and that's something that they recommend. It's not, although you could actually put it across individual drum tracks and have it as you know, remic each one, I suppose. So let's continue. Let's try drums 2. Let's see what that does. Throws up. That's a different position in the same room. So quite a different sound actually. Quite pleasant. Just bypass it. This is the sort of fairly dry sound. It's worth mentioning that you really need to send in as dry and unroomy signals as you can going into it, because obviously you'll get room simulation upon room. So this kit's reasonably dry, so it's quite a good source to use. So let's listen to the mid mics. C12 seem to be used quite a lot, and see we got in Omni mode, so we're going to get a bit more room. I really do like the sound of the C12s, but we could just as easily have, we've got Cardioid, Omni, KU3As, I'm not sure what they look like, apparently they look like that. Let's have a listen. That's interesting, more sort of compact, thuddy sound. So you've got, the mic selection sort of depends on the room. Well, that sounds quite nice too. If I bring those a bit further away. Yeah, pleasant. Anyway, let's try Studio B. We'll try drums 1, which I'm guessing will be in the corner. Let's see what that sounds like right out of the box. Much more sort of lively, kind of brighter wood sort of sound. And if I bring these close, you can hear the kit sort of come into focus. Just bypass. Add the room to it, we can mono it for more of a sort of old school sound. So as you can hear, there's something about you can sort of hear the wood. That sounds a little bit of a bizarre thing to say, but you can hear the woodiness of the room. You can hear the charisma of the room as well, which is something that I think comes across quite well. But also you see the characters of the microphones are quite well captured as well. I mean, I don't know Ocean Way Studios, and I certainly don't know all of those microphones. I do know that I really like the sound of the C12 though, and tend to favour that. But on the whole, you know, on drums, it sounds pretty tasty. So let's also try it on a vocal. I've got a vocal that I grabbed here. So I've got this track here. This is a vocal, male vocal, just on its own with a little bit of a massive pad under it. It's an Irish vibe. In fact, if you want to know where I got it from, this came from a site called looperman.com, and this is a chap called Shamuzi, who's got a lovely fruity voice. He's got various different acapellas. You can download them. Shamuzi was kind enough to give me a WAV file. They come down as MP3s ordinarily, but yeah, anyway, so here it is on its own. If I take the pad out of it, and I've got this as an insert across it. Now hit the bypass. This again is the C12, goes a little further away. I'm going to bring this close up. I'll just take this down a bit. I know my love is waiting for me. It really does bring it up close, and you get the sound of the microphone. Once again, this is the C12. I think that just sounds fantastic. Let's try a U67 or a U47. They're classic mics as well. I know my love is waiting for me, waiting for me. A bit more body and weight to it, but I still think the C12 gets it for me. So let's try a couple more mic positions. I know my love is waiting for me. Get a sense of the room there. Let's try it in Studio A, which is a bigger space. I know my love is waiting for me, waiting for me. Once again, you can really hear the room. I know my love is waiting
for me.
But where it really wins, again, for me, is just when you bring it close in.
I know my love is waiting for me.
You really get the sound of the mic. And I really dig that, because when you bring it, the room sounds fantastic, of course, but when you're bringing the mic up close, you can really sort of hear the sound of the microphone. And, you know, in almost every case, it's the C12, certainly on this voice and on the kits that I tried. The C12 just sounds absolutely gorgeous. If you want a bit more room in it, put the Omni, bring it close. But if you want to get the whole sound of the room, you've got all of that as well. And the fact that I've got the chance to listen to the mic when it's close is a sort of unexpected bonus, really. Of course, nothing comes for free, and this is one of the more hungry plugins that Universal Audio do. 38.4% for a single instance. Apparently you can run 2 on a solo, although it does recommend a duo. 4 on a duo, 8 on a quad, and 16 on an octo. So far I've just been working in remic mode. I'm going to go into reverb mode, and this one is this plugin is stuck across a bus. I've also got a limiter there for later use, and if I bring that in, there's my dry sound. I can start to bring this in and fade it in like I would perhaps have a separate bus for the overheads. I can then mute the mics, and if I want to change the EQ, I've got a different sound here. But also, that means I can do things like do this kind of effects compression. If I bring I've got the Universal Audio 1176. I can sort of do that effects compression as well, maybe mono that up. So overall, I like the overall sound of Ocean Way. I mean, what you're basically getting is this kind of like brain dump from Alan Sides and the sound of the room. I mean, a convolution reverb on its own is, you know, it can sound wonderful. We've all heard them and they can sound amazing. But with this extra technology and also this extra input from somebody who knows the room so incredibly well, we're getting access to that sound. And let's face it, not many of us are going to get the opportunity to go to Ocean Ways, let alone use any of those expensive microphones to record with. Just to have access to those is actually pretty special. It's not all good news though. I mean, we must remember that this is a premium plugin and a plugin platform from UAD. Apparently it's taken 3 years of development in this, so I've read, and bearing in mind that Alan Sides has to have been pleased with the results. In fact, in the promo video it says that he sometimes considers using the plugin over getting the mics up and setting it all up just because it saves time. But it's still an expensive item. It costs $349, which when you think about it is about a third to a quarter of the actual cost of the satellite quad, which I've got here. So the hardware itself, you know, represents a big chunk of change. But I'm guessing if you're the sort of person that uses Universal Audio stuff, you know that their plugins are premium, and that sort of thing's not going to bother you. So if you need that specific sound, then this is pretty much the only way to get it, short of actually flying to LA, booking a session at Ocean Way, and getting Alan Sides to engineer it for you. But that's going to cost you a whole lot more.